Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text number 3. So we'll do word for word. Ata Kavir Namastu Yavad Arta Syad Apramato Vyavasaya Buddhi Siddhe Nyar Arte Na Yateta Tatra Parishramam Tatra Samikshamanaha Ata Kavir Namasuyavat Arta Syad Apramato Vyavasaya Buddhi Siddhe Nyatarte Na Yateta Tatra Parishramam Tatra Samikshamanaha Ata Kavir Namasuyavararta Syada Pramato Vyavasaya Buddhi Siddhe Nyatarte Na Yateta Tatra Parishramam Tatra Samikshamanaha Ata Kavir Namasuyavat Arta Syada Pramato Vyavasaya Buddhi Siddhe Nyatarte Nayateta Tatra Parishramam Tatra Samikshamanaha
Ata kavir namasu yavararta.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Shara pramato vyavasaya buddhi. Siddhe nitarte nayate tatatra. Parishramam tatra samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana. Ata kavir namasuya vararta. Syara brahmato vivasaya buddhi. Siddhe yuttarte niyate tatatra.
Parishamam tatra samishamana.
Parishamam tatra samikshamana.
Ata kabir nama shuyavarartaha.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Sayad apramato vayavasaya buddhi.
Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi.
Siddhi tatarte nayatata tatra.
Siddhe yantarte nayate tatatra.
Parishramam tatra samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana.
Ata kavir namasu yavararta.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Syara pramato vyavasaya buddhi.
Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi.
Siddhe nyatarte nayate tatatra.
Siddhe nitarte yunate tatatra.
Parishamam tatra samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana.
Ata kabir nama suyavarata hataha.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Syara pramato vyavasaya buddhi.
Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi.
Siddhe nyatarte nayate tatatra.
Siddhe nitarte niyate tatatra.
Parishramam tatra samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana.
Ata kavirna masuya vararta.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Syara pramato vyavasaya buddhi.
Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi.
Siddhe nyatarte na yate tatra.
Siddhe nyatarte nayate tatatra.
Parishramam tata samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana.
Ata kavir nama suyavaratarka.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Syad apramato vyavasaya buddhi.
Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi.
Siddhenya tarte na yate tatatra.
Siddhe nyatarte nayate tatatra.
Parishramam tatra samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana.
Ata kavir namasu yavad atataha.
Ata kavir namasuya vararta.
Syat apramato vyarasya buddhi.
Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi.
Siddhe nayatarate nayate tatatra.
Siddhe nyatarte nayate tatatra.
Parishramam tatra samikshamanaha.
Parishramam tatra samikshamana. Ata kavir namasuya vararta. Syara pramato vivasaya buddhi. Siddhyatate nayate tatatra Parishramam tatra samikshamana Parishramam tatra samikshamana Ataha, for this reason, Kavihi, the enlightened person, Namasu, in names only, Yavat, minimum, Artha, necessity, Syat, must be, Apramataha, without being mad after them, Vyavasaya buddhihi, intelligently fixed. Siddhe, for success. Anyata, otherwise. Arte, in the interest of. Na, should never. Yateta, endeavor for. Tata, there. Parishramam, laboring hard. Tata, there. Samikshamanaha, one who sees practically. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being incompetent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. Purport. The Bhagavad Dharma, or the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam, is perfectly distinct from the way of fruitive activities, which are considered by the devotees to be merely a waste of time. The whole universe, or for that matter, all material existence, is moving on as Jagat, simply for planning business to make one's position very comfortable or secure. Although everyone sees that this existence is neither comfortable nor secure and can never become comfortable or secure at any stage of development. Those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization following the way of phantasmagoria are certainly madmen. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter, like earth, water, and fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are all simply bewildering names of material elements with their concomitant reactions of the three modes. Since the devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the babble of sea waves. The great kings, leaders, and soldiers fight with one another in order to perpetuate their names in history. They are forgotten in due course of time, and they make a place for another era in history. But the devotee realizes how much history and historical persons are useless products of flickering time. The fruitive worker aspires after a big fortune in the matter of wealth, woman, and worldly adoration. But those who are fixed in perfect reality are not at all interested in such false things. For them, it is all a waste of time. Since every second of human life is important, an enlightened man should be very careful to utilize time very cautiously. 1 second of human life wasted is in the vain research of planning for happiness in the material world can never be replaced, even if one spends millions of coins of gold. Therefore, the transcendentalist, desiring freedom from the clutches of Maya or the illusory activities of life, is warned herewith not to be captivated by the external features of fruitive actors. Human life is never meant for sense gratification, but for self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam instructs us solely on this subject from the very beginning to the end. Human life is simply meant for self-realization. The civilization which aims at this utmost perfection never indulges in creating unwanted things, and such a perfect civilization prepares men only to accept the bare necessities of life or to follow the principle of the best use of a bad bargain. Our material bodies and our lives in that connection are bad bargains because the living entity is actually spirit, and the spiritual advancement of living entity is absolutely necessary. Human life is intended for the realization of this important factor, and one should act accordingly, accepting only the bare necessities of life and depending more on God's gift without diversion of human energy for any other purpose, such as being mad for material enjoyment. The materialistic advancement of civilization is called the civilization of the demons, which ultimately ends in wars and scarcity. The transcendentalist is specifically warned herewith to be fixed in mind, so that even if there is difficulty in plain living and high thinking, he will not budge even an inch from his stark determination. For a transcendentalist, it is a suicidal policy to be intimately in touch with the sense gratifiers of the world, because such a policy will frustrate the ultimate gain of life. Shukadeva Goswami met Maharaj Parikshit when the latter felt a necessity for such a meeting. It is the duty of a transcendentalist to help persons who desire real salvation and to support the cause of salvation. One might note that Shukadeva Goswami never met Maharaj Parikshit while he was ruling as a great king. For a transcendentalist, the mode of activities is explained in the next shloka. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So translation repeated. For this reason, the enlightened persons should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. So these are really nice points by Shukadeva Goswami, and I believe he's beginning to speak here. So basically speaking about this verse, or he's highlighting points from this verse that was mentioned in the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, the first canto, or I think it was it may have been I don't remember what chapter it is, but the verse is basically saying that every endeavor in human life should be for the sake of one's ultimate liberation, ultimate salvation. So that is the proper use of human energy, is to act for one's purpose of becoming Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada's mentioning in the purport that this quote by Chanakya Pandit, that if one can have all the gold in the world, they can't even buy back one moment of time. So time is the most precious thing we have. So one moment in human life, we only have about 100 years in the human form in this life, in this age. So those moments are all very important in the grand scheme of things, because in this age we have an opportunity to perform Sankirtan to follow the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and make very, very rapid progress in spiritual life and possibly go back home, back to Godhead if we perfect our lives. Of course, Srila Prabhupada said if we just chant right 16 rounds and follow 4 principles, then this guarantees us to go back to Godhead. So we have that instruction or that benediction. So how can one get to this point, right? Because we're coming from so much conditioning in the material world. We have so many material desires that are in the hearts, that we're gradually purifying through the process of Krishna consciousness. But it may not be that we're able to do this at every moment, never waste one moment of time, and never not think of Krishna, right? Never not perform a Krishna conscious activity. See, that's the aim. That's the aim of where we want to go. We may not be there, but we have the way to get there, which is the process of sadhana bhakti. And that process of sadhana bhakti involves so many various lifestyle choices to live in the association of devotees is essential for progressing in spiritual life. Prabhupada mentioned in the purport too about that. Where is this quote here? To give up that association of, he says, for transcendentalists, it is a suicidal policy to be intimately in touch with sense gratifiers of the world, because such a policy will frustrate the ultimate gain of life. Why? It's practical, because if you're trying to give up something, but you're intimately around people, you're intimately associating with people that are doing those things you're trying to give up, it's just a matter of time before you give in. It's like so many opportunities are there, and the possibility that you'll, out of 100, let's say you have friends that go out and drink, and you go with them because you want to have a good time, but you don't drink. But if you go out 100 times, possibility is you'll drink one of those times, possibly. Or let's say you go out 1,000 times with them, possibility is there. So, but with devotees, if you go with the devotee who's following the principles, then they don't put themselves in those situations where you go out and a devotee is not interested in going to the bar or the club or these kind of places where alcohol is served and everybody's doing it socially. So it's very practical, and it's practical in the sense of if you want to advance in some type of skill, then you associate, you be around people that have those skills, and then you naturally gain those skills. So if one wants to be a devotee of the Lord, if one wants to chant 16 rounds, if one wants to follow 4 principles, then associating with devotees that are doing those things is essential for you. At least if you're in a remote place, then at least being connected with them in some way and receiving association and guidance in different ways than coming to the temple. There's various opportunities to associate with devotees from remote, if you're living in a remote location away from a community or a temple, like being online, Zoom groups, small reading groups, calling devotees, talking to them, etc. Of course, it's more difficult. But so association with devotees is essential for getting there, getting to that point where we're always we're never misusing a moment of our human form of life. And this is actually a symptom of of one who is in bhava is that they utilize their time so minutely to be always in devotional service of the Lord 24/7. So we have to move through the stages of bhakti, starting with Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Shraddha faith, Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees, Bhajana Kriya, devotional service, Anartha Nivritti, clearing the unwanted things in our heart, Nishta, steadiness. What is it? Attachment, asakti, attachment, ruchi, taste, bhava, spiritual emotions, loving emotions to the Lord, and prema, pure love. So we move ourselves through that. So see, when we hear about this, when we become inspired by the Shastra and we hear about, yes, we should never lose, we should always be using our time properly to serve Krishna, then we can use our intelligence to plan for doing that, to practice it, and to learn how to, it's just like controlling the mind, right? With the mind, you always, when you're chanting Hare Krishna, you always try to bring back the mind to the mantra. So like that, when we realize, when we use our intelligence, when we're doing activities, and we're like, okay, this is not in Krishna consciousness, so let me shift it, let me adjust, let me bring it back, bring back my mind, bring back my behaviors to Krishna consciousness, like that. So there's a sort of a practice aspect as well. So that comes from hearing about it. I remember when I was really new in Krishna consciousness, I was intimately associated with the devotee that was, he was 24/7, like every moment engaged in devotional service. It was incredible. And he always spoke about it too, like his whole life was based around his service. And he did everything minutely in his life, and he communicated it, his thought processes about these things, for increasing his service or improving the service. So if one has a service that they like so much, and become so absorbed in every moment how to get better at that service, and how to do the service better, and how to chant better so I could do my service better, how to eat better so I could do or how to eat properly so I can do my service better. Huh?
Or eat less.
Eat less, yeah. How to, to read more so the quality of my service is better, or to have better reading quality so my quality of my service is better. So we need a service that can give us that inspiration. Are there any comments or questions? There's a lot of points in this purport.
Just want to clarify, I was speaking for some of us who do overeat, not for someone like Bhakti Damodar, who seems to not get enough prasadam. Clarify that point. Doesn't apply to everyone.
Right. Any comments or questions? Yes, Megadari.
On this point that you were just making, about this devotee was trying to do all the minute details of his day to benefit his service. So we need a service that inspires us And I was wondering, like, many times I'm trying to chant my japa. I know that chanting is a way that I will harmonize myself with Krishna's will. And he can use me to do whatever services he wants. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do exactly. I know a little bit, but so sometimes thoughts are coming in my mind while I'm chanting, like, oh yeah, I'm chanting. Sometimes there's like prayers, or sometimes there's words, or sometimes there's philosophical adjustments, like, no, I'm doing this because I'm trying to do better in my services. And it seems like it's just like really distracting. I don't know if it's, this is a problem that everyone goes through, or if this is natural or whatever, but it's almost like I'm not really understanding which is higher priority. It's like my service or my chanting. Because while I'm chanting, I'm actually thinking of my services. It's like, and I'm chanting so I can do my service, but I'm actually not chanting because I'm doing my service subtly while I'm chanting. So I'm just really confused, and I like to understand how to chant and like that.
Yeah. Well, chanting is the highest service, highest service. So when we're chanting, we want to just focus on that, chanting and hearing and chanting. But yeah, like you said, the mind, so there's two factors, like you could say, okay, it's the mind, is it the mind, or is it a super soul that's, Krishna that's giving me inspiration, right? While I'm chanting, like some thoughts or plans or ideas are coming to me. And so the question is, which one is it? And if our service, if we're trying to do something, but these thoughts are keeping us from focusing on our chanting, it may be helpful if something keeps coming up. It may be helpful just to write it down, so that the mind can be peaceful. Okay, like this thing keeps coming up in my mind, but I'm supposed to be chanting, and I want to just hear and chant now, and be very attentive. So let me just write this down real quick. It doesn't have to be like a long sentence or something, but just something to refer to later. Something that you can recognize later. And I've noticed that doing that, it really takes off the mind's demand of having to do it right then and there. I have to get into it. I have to think about it right then and there. So that's helpful because yeah, when we're focusing on some service, then we want to just give all of our attention to that. So if it's chanting, then we want to focus on that, and other things can wait. So it's the mind's nature to be dissatisfied with what we're doing and want to do something else. And then also is purification of the mind to be chanting. So the mind may be, trying to distract us from that activity because it's a rascal. But that's a little tip that's helped me before. Especially if it's something related to my service, because yeah, it might, and if it keeps coming in, I can't get it out of my mind, and it might be something that's helpful to look into later. But at this time, I'm supposed to be chanting. So yeah, and some ideas that I've written down, like some of them are good ideas later on, some of them aren't. But the fact that I was able to just write it down and just kind of get it out of my mind, then that's helpful. It's just like, let's say for me, if I'm doing japa and something comes in my mind, like, oh my gosh, I didn't schedule somebody to do lunch today or something. Then I'm like, my mind is like tormenting with thoughts. Okay, who's going to do it? When you're going to send that out? Like that. So many thoughts come. But if I just write a note, like a to-do, okay, schedule this later, then my mind, okay, yeah, I don't have to do this right now. I can wait an hour, so. From where we're at, it's kind of like whatever helps us in devotional service. If we really like chanting and that motivates us to do other things well so that we can have better chanting, that's amazing, because we know that following the offenses is not just when we're chanting, it's our lifestyle. So there's so much involved in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life that affects our chanting when we sit down and chant. So, some devotees have a hard time if they eat late, and so they can't really be so awake during their chanting. So then they adjust and they don't eat as much at night, or they don't eat at all at night, so that they can chant better rounds, etc. So that's an example. And then, yeah. Yes, Radha Stali?
Hare Krishna. I had a comment related to like bare necessities, and then also you're speaking about writing. So I have a lot of journals, and when I think about having bare necessities, I think, okay, I go through a list in my mind whenever I hear this in classes. I think, oh, okay, I could get rid of that. I can get rid of this. I go through this list of things to get rid of that maybe sometimes I need, but I don't always need. And then I think about my journals. I think, is that a necessity or is it not? Because I write all my realizations in there, notes, I have scripture written in there. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on like, what do devotees do with these, with their journals? Because I don't think I'm the only one who has a collection of them. And if I am, then I don't know. But it's actually bothering me because I think about like one day just living very minimally, thinking that it might be better for my chanting and my service. So can you share your thoughts on this? Does it make sense?
Yeah, but how many are we talking about? Like 100 filled out journals or something?
Say that again?
How many are we talking about? Is it like 5 journals, or is it like 100?
Right now, I probably have like over 20.
20 like filled out?
Yeah, like
note.
full little, I mean, they're all different sizes, but a lot of them are like, oh, I like this Bhagavad Gita verse and I just write it, or I write my realizations after that, and things from classes, like notes from classes. So I'm just wondering what other devotees do with that. Do they just save it? Do they write a book? Like, I just don't know. So anyways, Hare Krishna.
Well, we want to do things which are favorable for devotional service, right? That's the main principle. And this is obviously a notebook which has Krishna consciousness, in it, right? There's verses and notes on classes and realizations and things like that. So I wouldn't say it's like considered, like over collecting if you're if it's useful information that you have, and if you refer back to it, and it's actually providing some, some purpose for you in your devotional service. But if it's just like, you just have like 200 journals and you can't really, it's hard to move them, it's hard, you don't have any space for it in your place, or and you don't ever refer back to them, they're just there, then that might be, something to really consider downgrading. But I mean, it's kind of like a similar idea of keeping files. Like if you have a computer, it's easy to store things, or it's easier to store things on a computer because it's digital. It's not like a physical form that takes up like space, a lot of space. So keeping files that are helpful for future use, it's not like over collecting. If you keep important files and files that will be necessary, or files you should have on file, things you should have on file. So yeah, so those are some thoughts about it. I know that one devotee, I've seen a number of devotees, they even have like logs, like some devotee had a sadhana log all the way back when he almost first joined the movement, and he kept it all these years, which is incredible. That's 40 years of hauling this sadhana log around with you. So yeah, some devotees have notes from many years ago that they've kept, and yeah.
If we'd like to dispose one, or what's the proper way to dispose something like that? Because it seems, sacred.
Seems what?
Sacred.
Sacred. Yeah. I mean, the practicality, you can burn it. It's like, a way to dispose sacred things, but for practical purposes, you can also just throw it away. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.